Marko here from Fair Realty, Victoria, BC. Last year in the US, we had one of the biggest shakeups in the real estate industry in North America that we've seen in decades. It's called the NAR settlement. You can Google it, read up on it. So essentially, the National Association of Realtors in the US was forced to pay a $418 million fine for anti-competitive commission practices. But that is the small talking point in this settlement. The bigger talking point is it was determined that having the seller pay or offer the cooperating commission to buyer's agents was anti-competitive and it was driving up commission. So essentially, let's say if the gross commission is 3%, the seller pays the listing agent 1.5% and offers the buyer's agents 1.5%. That was deemed not to be appropriate in this settlement and it was banned. So now in the US, when a property is listed, in the MLS system, the cooperating brokerage can no longer be advertised. And this was supposed to dramatically change the industry, bring down commissions, bring about changes in the way the business is done. And it's been more than a year now. And a lot of strategies realtors have put into place to circumnavigate the fact that this can't be advertised in the MLS system. For example, a buyer's agent will text the listing agent, say, hey, listen, is your seller okay paying me 1.5%? Or in the lockbox, I don't know if you've seen the lockboxes in Victoria, but when you open the lockbox for the key, the listing agent's going to put a business card in there and it'd say, seller willing to offer 1.5% cooperating commission. Also, some great coaching on YouTube. For example, one guy was saying, if you're the buyer's agent, don't ask the listing agent whether the seller is willing to offer a cooperating commission, because if you do, and then the listing agent says, no, they're not, and then you submit an offer asking for a cooperating commission, that seller is going to be upset with their listing agent because they already told them they don't want to pay cooperating commission. So when you write an offer, just put it in right away. As the buyer's agent would like the seller to pay me 1.5%. The interesting part in all of this is now there are studies coming out. It's been more than a year. The cooperating commission in most places in the US has actually trended upwards. For example, one study I read before in this one particular market, the cooperating commission, so once again, the commission the buyer's agents gets paid was 2.5%. A year after this NAR settlement, it's now 2.58%. So I have a Croatian friend. He owns a big brokerage in the US. He has 258 realtors working for him. So I phoned him the other week and I said, is this possible? And he said, yeah, looking at my analytics from my 250 agents, there's been no change to the average cooperating commission paid to the buyer's agents, even though we're no longer allowed to advertise it with listings anymore. And I thought that was really interesting because the entire purpose of this NAR settlement was to bring more competition into the marketplace and put downward price pressure on commissions. The other day, I also came across a Reddit thread on Housing Canada or Real Estate Canada, whatever, and it was saying, the Canadian government should put a max on how much real estate compensation can be. And then hundreds of comments. Realtors are leeches. They're useless. There's no need for them in society. Just get a lawyer and an inspector. And I'm going to explain to you real life why this doesn't work. I recently sold a townhome for some clients. I had this townhome previously on the market 5-6 years ago, twice, never sold. They called me again this year, a bit more motivated. So, 6-7 years, I don't know when I first listed it for them. After meeting them, I finally sold this townhome. Now they're shopping for a house. And after we sold a townhome in a matter of approximately 30 days, I showed them 17 different properties. One property we went back to 3 times. Tuesday evening, it was a Saturday morning and a Sunday afternoon. And keep in mind, this property that was being sold, that my clients wanted to view 3 times because their parents had to come take a look at it, etc. Owner occupied, 2 young kids living in it. So this family had to vacate on a Tuesday evening, Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon. After the 3rd showing, my clients were like, Marko, the economy is not that great, etc. Let's write a low offer. We wrote a very low offer against my advice. And naturally, the listing agent called me and said, listen, my guys are not even going to reply to this. They're kind of upset. You came and looked at the property 3 times and then you write a low ball offer. I didn't convey that to my clients. I said, hey, the sellers appreciate your offer, but it's too low for them. They're not gonna counter. And then these clients of mine, the buyers, they emailed me a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, listen, our friends are going out of the country and they're going to be away for 8 months. They offered us their house for a really cheap rent. So we're going to move in. Since our place is sold, put a pause on the search and we'll restart in the spring. We think there's going to be better opportunities in the spring, which is fine. But think about it. How would this be handled with the lawyer? The Sunday afternoon showing we had, they texted me Sunday morning at 10 that they wanted to look at it Sunday afternoon. So a lawyer is going to be showing them this property on Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning. I don't think so. Lawyers like money. If there was a business model for lawyers to get into real estate, they would create it. But a lawyer does not want to be showing houses Sunday afternoon. They want to be on a golf course, and Monday to Friday, they want to bill $300 to $400 per hour. A lot of other comments on Reddit are like, oh, I'll just sell privately. The problem with selling privately is if you're that family on the flip side that's selling that house, you want someone coming through your house 3 times and then writing you a low ball. You don't even know if people coming through your house are qualified to buy. Often I get phone calls on my condo listings and it'll be a phone call from an unrepresented party saying, I want to see you this afternoon. And I'll be like, I have to talk to the seller, see if they can clean up for this afternoon. But you have a pet. And then the buyer that's calling me unpresented will say, well, what kind of question is that? Why are you asking me? Well, I'm asking you because the strata bylaws don't allow for pets. And how would you like it as a seller if you were selling privately and you had these people coming unqualified? They don't know the strata bylaws. Nothing's being screened. A lot of people online talk, hey, I sold a house privately. It was super easy. I don't know. In real life practice, there's simply not that many people selling privately. A couple of years ago, I had a Tesla Model S I owned for 8 years. I put on almost 300,000 kilometers on it. Because it had so many kilometers on it, it was out of warranty and it was old. Tesla, the dealership or the store, only offered me 11,000. And I figured the car was worth like 25,000. I ended up selling it for 22,000. But I met about 10 people and oh my God, was the process frustrating. I had people come for a 30-minute test drive, get out of the Tesla and be like, yeah, I still have to sell my Chevy Bolt to make this happen. It's like, well, why don't you sell your Chevy Bolt first, then come test drive my car? And that was an eye-opening experience. I would have probably, in hindsight, maybe not given it to Tesla for 11,000, but I would have certainly sold it to Tesla for 17,000 versus going through the process of entertaining a bunch of tire kickers for 22,000. So long story short, there's still value in having a good, qualified, knowledgeable real estate agent. And in my opinion, that is why commissions are not trending down post this NAR agreement, because people still, whether they're buying or selling, they still want a real estate agent on their side. They're not prepared to navigate things privately. Sellers, when they get an offer and the buyer's agent is asking for a commission, they're still prepared to pay that commission because they want to sell their house. Sure, they could say no. You, as the buyer's agent, are representing the buyer, have the buyer pay that commission. But I don't know about the US, but in Canada, that would create a lot of problems because a lot of buyers barely scrape together enough money for the down payment. So if they had to pay the buyer's agent a commission, it would make it a lot more difficult getting into a home. So that's kind of my rant for this week, but I was really shocked to see that the cooperating commissions have actually trended up in the US post this agreement. But as I said, I think there are some reasons for that. It's going to be very difficult, in my opinion, to replace realtors with AI and just simply lawyers and inspectors. And I don't think going forward, there's going to be an uptick in private sales, which brings me to my last point. I should have mentioned it earlier. I've done hundreds of mere postings in Victoria. So mere postings of for sale by owner on MLS. And over the 15 years, a lot of people that have successfully sold with me using a mere posting have phoned me back to list another property for them 10 years later. You know what's a really interesting thing? 90% of the time, someone that sold a house successfully with me using a mere posting for sale by owner on MLS in 2013, for example, and save $10,000. In 2024, 2025, they'll say, hey, Marko, you did a mere posting for us in 2013. We want to sell our house now, but we want to use you full service. We don't want to do a mere posting again. Once again, comes back to around there's options out there for doing it yourself, but I do think some people value the expertise a good real estate agent can bring to the table. That's it for this week. Marko, Juras, Fair Realty.